Hello. Are you tired of creating a variable called score, only for it to show up like this, ruining your entire Scratch game because of the poor graphics? Well, today I'm going to show you a way to make your score number look so much better. Alright, so to get started, you'll see that I actually already have a sprite called numbers here. So if we go into costumes, you can see that I've just added the numbers 0 through 9. Don't forget 0. And what I'm going to do to finish up the costumes of this sprite is actually just add a blank costume. And this will just be for when there aren't any digits to show. Paint a costume, and I will just simply name this blank. Okay, so now we can start coding, and actually this number sprite is the only sprite we'll need. But first, we need to declare some variables. So let's create a couple variables. First, obviously, will be our score. This will be what our numbers represent. Next, we're gonna have the variable number of clones. And I'll explain most of these variables later on. Next, we're gonna have the digits variable. And finally, we're gonna have the clone number variable. And it's very important to tick for this sprite only for this variable. So make sure you do that. Okay, once you've done that, you can go and untick all of these except for score. And just for some checks, I'm going to change this score variable to a slider so we can change that accordingly. Alright, so let's start coding. So when flag clicked, and let's just define our variables first. So we're going to set number of clones to 0, and we're going to set our score to 0. And then inside of a forever loop, we're simply just going to set digits, our variable digits, to the length of score. And I'll explain what this is in a second. So essentially, our score has a length. If I drag the slider here and make our score 54, or 48 here, our length is 2 because there are two numbers, 4 and 8. So our digits is variable. It's essentially the number of digits. So in this case, where our score is 48, digits would just be 2, and that tells us how many numbers to actually draw to the screen. Alright, great. Now let's come up with another when flag clicked. And here we're just going to repeat 10 times, create clone of myself, and change number of clones by 1. So, essentially what this does is it makes 10 clones of this numbers sprite. And that essentially means that our score can have up to 10 digits. If it has 11 digits, we don't have enough clones of our numbers to actually make that number. Yeah, so there's a maximum of 10 digits allowed. So it creates a clone, and it also changes the number of clones by 1, because obviously if you create one clone, the number of clones increases by 1. Alright, so fairly straightforward now. And now there's just one final large block of code we need to make. So let's do that now. So we can say when I start as a clone, so this will happen when all clones come into existence. We want to set clone number to number of clones. Now this is very important. You might recall me saying earlier in the video that it is very important to set the clone number as a this sprite only variable. And the reason we do that is a this sprite only variable, whenever it creates a clone, each clone has its own variable. So each clone has its own clone number. There's not one clone number for all the clones. So whenever a clone is created, it gets its own clone number. So if it's the third clone created, it essentially knows that it is the third clone. So it is the third digit in that number. So now we can just add a forever loop and an if-else statement. So inside of this, we're going to say if clone number is less than digits. So if clone number is less than digits, or if clone number is equal to digits. So essentially this is a less than or equal to. And so basically what we're saying is, let's go back to the 3 example. So the number of clones is 3, and our digits is the length of our score. So if I can just change the slider range to go up to 10,000, right? In the case of 436, there are 3 digits. And so if this clone number is the first, second, or third digit, then it knows it has to be drawn to the screen. If not, then it shouldn't be drawn to the screen because there's only 3 digits. So the 4th number wouldn't do that. So in this case, we want to switch our costume to its corresponding number. And remember, the default costume is this blank costume, so you don't actually see it initially. And so we're just going to add a bunch of blocks together, and I'll explain what they all do together. Essentially what this does is letter clone number, oh, sorry, forgot to add score there. Letter clone number of score just basically gets the correct digit of score. So if this clone number is 3, that means it's the 3rd clone. So the 3rd digit of score, or the 3rd letter of score, or the 3rd digit of score would be 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 6. And then it joins that with glow hyphen, so it'd be glow hyphen 6. And the reason we do that is because all these costumes are named glow hyphen and then their number. So if we just said, without this joining, just set the costume to 6, it wouldn't actually work. You need to have the actual correct name in there. Okay, great. And if not, we can just switch our costume to the blank costume, and then the sprite will not be seen. Okay, great. Now, one final thing to do is the spacing. Our spacing needs to be correct. So we can add another if-else statement. So basically, this is checking to see if the round of digits divided by 2 is not equal to digits divided by 2. So say there are 5 digits. 5 divided by 2 is a decimal, 2.5. So when you round 2.5, you get 3, which is not equal to 2.5. So this is basically checking if the number is odd, because if it's odd, then it's not equal. But take an even number, 8 for example. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 rounded is also 4. So 4 is equal to 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So this checks if a number is odd. So if it is odd, we want to set x to, and this is another fairly complicated piece of code. And essentially what this does is it takes our clone number. So say, first it rounds our digits divided by 2. So say this is when it's odd. So say we have 5 as an example. 5 divided by 2 rounded is 3. That means the third character, the third letter, is the middle digit. And that's right. If we have 5 characters numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 would be right in the middle. So we take our clone number. So say our clone number is 5, for example, and minus 3. Since 3 is in the center, 5 minus 3 is 2. We know we are exactly 2 spaces from the center. So 50 is our spacing. So essentially we just set x to that spacing. And now would be a good time to just set this to 0, 0. So we just know we're starting over there. Okay. And so the final thing to do is our else. And this is fairly simple. We duplicate this, but instead of the digits divided by 2, we just add 0.5. Because if you take an even number, say 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 is not actually in the middle of the numbers 1 through 8. 4.5 is. So we just need to add 0.5 to get right in the middle. And then it's the same concept as when it was odd. And so that is it. So now if we run the program, we start with a 0, And as you can see, as we start to increase, the numbers increase perfectly. It's great. And you can change the range as needed, so I could go all the way up to a couple million there. And it works perfectly fine. All the way up until you get to 10 digits, which I think this might be, yeah, this is 10 digits. So if you see, we just add one more zero there, it actually just won't work. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and watch out for a new one.